Hello, my name's Mike Bitar, and I'm with Protis Executive Innovations, and I'm here to talk to you today about preparing for an interview, whether that be a telephone or a face-to-face interview. And the process is really simple, but not many people go through it that frequently. So let's just talk about the basics of how to get yourself ready to conduct as efficient and effective interview process as you possibly can. There are a few fundamentals to start with and keep in mind throughout the entire interviewing process. Number one is that this is a two-way decision. The company is making a decision about you as an individual candidate and how you fit functionally and culturally within their organization, and you are making decisions about this company and this department and this individual hiring manager on how they fit your personal scorecard from a personal, professional, and financial perspective. And if both parties can do that throughout the interview process, whether the decision is to join a new organization or not, then as long as we can make that a timely, well-informed decision-making process, I think that's a successful spend of time. So let's talk about some of the key elements of the interview and how to get yourself ready. First of all, an interview is nothing more than a business conversation. A lot of people think about interviews and they begin to get a little stressed or uneasy because, again, you don't do this very often. So I'd like to remove the mentality that this is an interview, and let's just talk about it as a business meeting. You've attended dozens, if not hundreds, of business meetings over your career, and for each of those business meetings, I would assume that you have been very well prepared for each of those meetings, no matter what the topic is. Treat this like a business meeting, and the topic is you and your career and this particular company, their products, and the functional elements of this particular role and how it fits in their organization. So, to be effective in these business meetings that you've attended over your career, you've done homework and research and prepared before you walked into that business meeting. You knew the material, whatever research or data was out there, you reviewed it, and you knew what you were trying to get accomplished and what additional questions that you needed to ask once you attended that meeting. I want you to do the exact same thing as you prepare for this interview. There are three really big elements to the interview. Number one is presence. Number two is how you answer the questions that the interviewer asks you. And number three are the questions that you ask the interviewers that you meet with. Let's take those one at a time. Number one, presence. When I share this with people, they immediately think about what you look like. And that's clearly part of presence, but it's a smaller part than most people realize. Presence has to do with your maturity, your communication style, your ability to get your point across in an impactful, powerful way without being too verbose, but also not being too vague. It is really small things that mean a lot, like handshake, eye contact, body posture. So when you're in the interview, you don't need to be coming across the table at the interviewer, but you also shouldn't be too laid back in your chair. Be yourself. Let your natural communication style come out, but make sure that you're engaging. Make sure that you really share that you are interested in how you conduct yourself and the words you choose and the attitude that you exude in the meeting. Now, many initial interviews are done via telephone or sometimes video conference. So from an in-person interview, the presence piece that I just discussed is pretty straightforward on how to conduct yourself. But on a telephone interview, some of those things may not seem like they come across as clearly. So you don't have the ability to make eye contact. A couple tips on telephone interviews. Please make sure that you're in a quiet environment where you can speak freely. Everybody leads very busy lives. Please do not take this telephone interview from your car while you're driving or sitting in a parking lot. Be in an area where it's quiet, you can speak freely, but you can also be up and moving around. When you're up and moving and speaking with your hands, you typically come off with a little more energy and enthusiasm, and if that's how you naturally communicate, make sure you put yourself in that environment to be able to do that on the interview as well. The second piece in terms of how you answer questions is probably the biggest part of the interview. And a couple rules of thumb here, or suggestions, is if you can think of STAR or SAR, situation, task, action, result, or situation, action, result, it is a great way to communicate, whether again it be in a business meeting or an interview. And specifically, if you take time to review yourself, do the homework on yourself, and go back through the entirety of your career, even back to your college choice. What was the situation at that time in your life? What were the action steps that you took? And what were the quantifiable results? And that last piece, the R, the results, really need to be quantifiable. Think to yourself throughout your career, the different roles that you've held and the different levels of responsibility, what have been the results and the accomplishments you've been most proud of, and realize a result or an accomplishment in an interview cannot be as vague as my boss was happy, we hit plan, my accountant was very pleased with the results. It has to have quantifiable impact. People that are interviewing you and looking to bring you into their organization and pay you significant amounts of base salary and potential bonus and maybe even long-term incentive plans want to understand what you've been able to accomplish in your career and how you've made an impact in the organizations that you've worked with. Remember, it's a very competitive job market out there, and if you cannot separate yourself from your competition, you will not receive an offer. So please do the homework on yourself and really think about those quantifiable impact points that you've had throughout your career, and then communicate them that way. The situation was this, the action steps that I took or I helped my team take were these, and here are the quantifiable results that came from those efforts. What happened because of you, not in spite of you. So that's the verbal interaction, which is a majority of an interview. But also in terms of how you answer questions, I strongly encourage everyone not only to have a well laid out resume, but also to take a career portfolio with you to the interview. This is not something that you have to leave behind. You can, if you choose, you can make copies for each of the individual interviewers that you'll be meeting. But it's very important that you not only can speak and verbally communicate in the interview, but that you can also show examples of your work. Shows that you're well prepared, shows that you're highly interested in the opportunity, and you took the time to get into that level of preparation to put together examples. But it also shows people, because most people are visual, what it is that your work looks like. How you did things that may be a little bit out of the norm, and how you've taken a creative approach to show value or do something a bit more efficiently. So create a binder that is well organized, so it has various tabs in it so you can find that information quickly. And typically these aren't presentation binders. You're not going to lead the interview by walking step by step through these things, but it is something that you refer to throughout the course of the interview, depending on where and what topic you're on in that interview. Sometimes it's a good idea to take your laptop in if there are documents there that you want to be able to share, or different techniques that you use throughout your work day that would be nice to share electronically, or bring in a flash drive and be able to plug in and show different presentations. So again, this is not about sharing proprietary information from your current employer. We don't recommend that you do that. And if there is proprietary information in some of the details that you want to share, please make sure that you take the appropriate steps to mask those or cover those up. The interviewer will understand that the confidentiality of those items is very sensitive, and they won't expect to see those elements, but they will want to understand how you do what you do. The third piece of how you ask questions goes very unnoticed by a lot of candidates that are preparing for interviews, and they focus so much on being able to articulate what they've done, which is very important, but they forget to really spend time thinking about the questions that they want to ask. There are a ton of resources out on the internet to give you some good thoughts and ideas on good interview questions to ask, but I'd really challenge you just to sit back and think through yourself, what are the things that are important to you? When you think of your scorecard, personally, professionally, and financially, what do you want to understand about this organization, about the culture, about the individual that you're interviewing with, why he or she joined the organization, why they stay in the organization, what are some of the things that they most enjoy, what are some of the things that provide the biggest challenge to them. So think about the things that are important to you. And one good thing to think about as you're preparing that list of questions is when you walk out the door of those interviews, what is it that you want to ensure that you understand about the organization? What things is it imperative that you have gathered so you can make a timely, well-informed decision about this opportunity, just as the interviewer is going to try and evaluate and understand you enough to make a timely, well-informed decision about you and your candidacy for this particular role. There are so many ways to research the companies that you're going to be interviewing with and also the individual interviewers that you'll be meeting. I encourage you to take advantage of all of those resources. Clearly the internet is a very powerful tool for this. Please dive as deeply into this as you can, including the company's individual website, but well beyond that. Especially for publicly traded organizations, the amount of information out there is unbelievably in-depth, so please do that. Don't forget one of the most obvious but very rarely utilized techniques to research your organization in the food and beverage world. Go out to retail. Go out and see the product. Look at the shelves, look at the displays, talk to people, talk to consumers, talk to store managers. Go to various different channels and really get to understand what's going on with the product. And look at the competitive set, look at pricing, look at placement, look at all of those things. The other things to consider are, please make sure that you take additional resume copies. Have one for each of the interviewers. They will have your resume already, but it's nice to just offer and hand that to them when you walk in as well. And you never know, you may meet with more people than were on the original agenda, so have a couple additional resume copies available. The other piece that you want to make sure that you do is really think about how you're going to close each interview. Not just with the person that you're going to directly report to, but each and every person that takes time out of their day to spend time with you, to get to know you, to share more insight into their organization. Make sure you have thought through how you want to bring that interview to a close. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. We can talk about that one-on-one as we have our telephone conversation about your interview. But please come prepared to think about exactly how, in your mind, you want to ask some closing questions, gain some feedback from the employer, and then utilize that to best understand, what additional information you may need to share before you leave that meeting and that interview. A couple final thoughts for you. Your time is very valuable, and we're all extremely busy in today's crazy work environment. And so is the interviewer. And he or she is very busy. Their company is busy, and taking time out of their schedule to interview is an exciting time for them, but also they want to make sure it's productive. And the best way for everybody to feel good about that is to do the preparation, to do the homework, to take time to research yourself, to research the company, to research the products, to do everything you can to be really well prepared when you walk in that meeting. Number one, to make it productive. But number two, if you do that work, you're going to walk in feeling very confident, relaxed, and not nervous. And it's very important that you're not nervous. It's nothing more than a business conversation, so please don't be nervous. But take the time to prepare, and I think you'll have a very productive interaction, and you'll be able to walk out of there feeling good about confidently and accurately portraying yourself to the organization, and very importantly, gathering the information with which you need to make a timely, well-informed decision on your part. So I wish you luck. I strongly encourage you to be yourself, to be relaxed, to be confident, to have fun with the conversation, and to be engaging. And I'm sure it'll be very productive, and I look forward to talking to you prior to your interview, but also excited to talk to you after the interview's over. Have a great day.